right, let's see who's here. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can hear
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Zoom is playing silly buggers again, unfortunately. All right. Good morning, everybody. Let's bring all the stuff up. Yeah, genetics. Best course ever. Well, at least in my opinion. Okay, let's get screen share up. All right, so sorry about kind of entering and then leaving again. There's like extra security stuff on Zoom this semester for some reason, which causes issues. All right, so I'm Matt Crook. I'll be your spirit guide for the semester, so to speak. Probably not many of you seen this, but there's a funny Simpsons episode where he takes part in a chili eating contest in New Mexico. Anyway, that's kind of always my inspiration for starting a course. So anyway, so we're starting genetics. Basically what I want to do today, we've only got 50 minutes, it's not an awful lot of time, is just take you through kind of some major things, I guess. One of which is like expectations for the course. I'll give you an introduction to what the course is about, right? But you'll kind of figure that out eventually anyway, you know, because you'll be in genetics. But anyway, kind of going over expectations, which are a pretty big deal for this course. It's not a trivial course at all. And that's for kind of a bunch of reasons. Just can chat over there on my screen. And then once we kind of got through all of that and some kind of tips and suggestions on effective ways of studying and passing the class, which is what you care about, because that's important. We'll go through, where you're going to find stuff and assessments and yeah, all that stuff. Okay. Oh, before I forget, chat box, wherever yours is on your screen, super awesome. Love it lots. It's actually one of my most favorite things about Zoom. It's going to be posted to Blackboard later. I'll go through all this stuff in a little bit. I just saw a direct message. If you want to message me directly, you can do so. Like say, Dr. Crook, I'm having problems with such and such. Can we meet later or whatever, right? Doesn't really matter. Before posting the chat, I will delete those direct messages. So you're more than welcome to group me. Technology. I'm not going to use none of that. What are you talking about, Dante? Anyway, yeah, so you're free to email me, not email, chat to me in the box, and it stay confidential, right? So that stuff isn't going to be viewed by anybody else. If you don't mind, which is also super cool, just use the talk to everyone thing, and then everyone else can see your questions, which are really useful, right? It's a big part of what we're going to be doing, like in this thing. And also those will be recorded for, potential study material later. Yeah, actually, funny. So I like chatting with my students because it's way more fun than just reading off PowerPoint. I got my first smartphone yesterday. Look at that. Yeah, I know. I don't know what it does. Like all kinds of things. Beeps at me all the time. I had a flip phone before then, which was a complete and total turd. So I'm very, very happy. Yes, big congratulations on the back. I'm only like 10 years behind everybody else, but I'll get there eventually. Okay, so basically genetics is, well, this bit of genetics that we're going to be teaching in this course this semester is really all about why you are the way you are, right? Or why things are the way they are, biological things, organisms. I like using, you as an example because it's more relatable, but this applies to anything from single cells, even really things like viruses, coronavirus, for example, is an RNA virus, right? We'll be talking about stuff which kind of impacts on that. Actually, that's kind of a reminder, I need to include some of that stuff later on in the course because it's cool. But really, it's all about why things are the way they are biologically, why they have the shape they have, why you and I are different, but genetically almost identical, right, in the grand scheme of things. And taking that all the way from the DNA level, you know, cell division, DNA replication, gene expression, all of that, all the way up to why you look the way you are, why your kids will look a particular way and not exactly like you. Why, if you look at, you know, pictures of family trees and stuff, you'll see particular traits which kind of go down through generations or appear and then disappear and then appear again, things like that, right? So we stop pretty much at the level of the individual and generations, right? Evolution, which most of you will take after this or after micro maybe, kind of picks up where we leave off and starts looking at the population level and how that changes over time, which is essentially speciation and evolution, if speciation goes on for long enough, right? So this is like the foundation level, right? That's why this is such an important course, because this is what underpins really most of what you'll be learning later on in your biology degree, right? And so even though I actually have a funny conversation, I've got one of my friends is a chemist and another one's a mathematician, and I'm like, oh, genetics is underneath everything. And he's like, yeah. Chemistry is underneath everything. And then obviously the mathematician gets all snarky. But this genetics that we're going to be learning is really like the foundation upon which all life can and should be understood, right? And so in many senses, that's why this is such an important course, because, you know, it's next to impossible to really understand an awful lot of biology without it, right? It really is. Gen Bio 1 is kind of prep work in a sense for genetics. Genetics is what will then take you into all your other biology courses in some degree or other, right? Some more so, some less so. The other way in which this course is super important, other than the fact that I love it, obviously, is that this is the tipping point between being students coming into college, kind of figuring out what's what, how to be successful, effective studying methods, stuff like that, which is really what the Gen Bio series is all about, you know, teaching you. And on the other side of genetics are some, I mean, there's some easy courses, particularly the fluffy ones, but there are some really, really challenging courses, right? And so genetics kind of sits kind of at that tipping point between the, you know, just as long as you make your study cards, you'll be good, kind of Gen Bio 1 type stuff, and some really advanced, just almost graduate level courses, which you'll be taking in the, like the 4000 level. For example, my developmental biology course, right, which is really advanced developmental genetics. That's really why you are the way you are, right? Which is why I get all kind of passionate about that. So what you learn in genetics this semester is my kind of fervent hope you'll be able to take all those skills, studying skills, exam taking skills, analytical skills, right? How to think as a biologist, and you'll be able to apply that to your upper division courses and be successful as a result, right? That's really kind of, in many ways, the courses that I teach, which were Gen Bio 1 for a couple of years and now genetics for a couple of years, really a large part of them is not so much the material you're learning, but how you learn the material, right? How do you successfully study, right? How do you figure out what you don't know? That's actually one of the biggest challenges you'll come across, right? Because you know what you know, that's easy. And exams will tell you what you don't know, but you want to figure that out before you get into an exam. Oh, I wish I was having a cup of coffee, Bianca. Could you make me one too? I've got like 50 minutes till I can have one, unless I can like make puppy eyes with my wife and she might make me one if she wanders past. Okay, so that's kind of the general kind of spiel about this course. It's super fun, right? So we start off fairly straightforward. There's kind of a bunch of math in the first half, first third, I guess, because we're going to be dealing with probability, right? Which is really what inheritance is all about. What's the probability that the offspring of two individuals of a certain genotype will have a particular genotype? That's really what inheritance is all about. Obviously, the more genes you're looking at, the more complex the phenotypes, the more complex the math. Right, so we're going to start off with that. And then in the latter half of the semester, we'll really get into the weeds of gene expression and the control of gene expression. Right, and this is, proteins are what do stuff, basically, not 100%, right? RNAs do an awful lot of cool stuff too, but products of gene expression are what do things. DNA is not. DNA is simply the store of information. It's like having a library, Library of Alexandria, maybe, kind of walled up. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there, right? It's only once you interact with that information and you use it to do something that stuff happens, right? So really, in a nutshell, that chunk there, that latter half of the course is all of biology, right? Obviously, if you're, I don't know, having an argument with a giant panda conservationist, I hate giant pandas, then they'll have a different view on things. But I could probably argue them down anyway. But that's kind of the real core of the course in many ways, right? And that'll also allow us to look at some really, really cool stuff, like why some cats have, kind of more toes than they should do. Why coronavirus seems to mutate fairly frequently, things like that. It'll just be super neat. It's kind of my most fun part. Most challenging part of the course by, some degree, particularly if you're fairly competent at math. But by the time we get there, hopefully, you would have developed all the skills you need to be successful at that section too. Okay, so that's kind of the course in general. Now, expectations. So you're going to have to work really hard at this course. There's no two ways about it. I like to tell students that you don't have to be super smart to pass genetics. And by pass, I mean a C or better, because that's what you need to graduate in biology. It's what you need to take evolution. And I think micro, no, actually, you don't need genetics to take micro, but you need to take it for a lot of other courses. So it's difficult, right? You don't have to be smart, you have to work hard, right? There are plenty of students who are not geniuses, which is awesome, right? And they are able to get what they need out of genetics, right? Obviously, if you're super, super smart, it doesn't hurt, right? But it's not required to be successful in this course. It's funny, I'm getting a little distracted by Bianca walking around in her house. Sorry, I don't mean to keep picking on you, Bianca. It's just you're the one that's in my view. It looks like it tore through like a Half-Life level or something because it's all blurred out behind you. It's really neat. Kind of like first-person shooter, but in reverse. Yeah, wherever you're comfortable is what matters, right? But you need to be very organized and work hard. If you do that, you will be successful. So typically, varies from semester to semester. Typically 60% of my class will get a C or better. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower. I think this summer it was 65%, which was nice. But that means that typically a third to 2/5 of you will not get a C. So you'll need to retake this. My hope every semester is to get that number higher, right? By being clear about expectations, giving you more tips and suggestions on how to be successful. And so I can tell pretty much within a couple of weeks, give or take, who's going to be in that 60 to 65%. Without really knowing very much about you, even before you take your first exam, I'll have a pretty good idea, right? And the way I know is a bunch of different things. One, you're going to be attending Zoom, right? You can, in theory, learn genetics without anyone teaching you, right? If you're sufficiently motivated, you can get all that information off the internet. But most people, you know, that don't fall into that category. So attend Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on. I really don't mind whether you do or don't. It's nice if some people do, because I can see whether you're still writing, right? So I can get a sense for, you know, whether you're finished with a particular bit of note taking or not. So that's handy. But you don't have to have your camera on. I really don't mind. Oh, yeah, Sierra, give me a second. I'll get there in a moment. We will look at the syllabus. Actually, we're probably not going to look at the syllabus. We're going to look at the schedule, which is actually more important. But yeah, so attend Zoom, ask questions, right? That is probably one of the key predictors of success, right? Not that, you know, if you just ask me like, you know, what's your puppy's name? Like, what's your favorite color? Not those kinds of questions. Questions about the material, stuff that you don't understand, because that allows me to figure out a better way of teaching you that particular concept so you do understand it. If you understand that concept, you'll be able to answer questions correctly in the exam. It's kind of as simple as that, right? But I don't know what you don't know until you show me what you don't know, right? I won't be able to kind of address things that you don't understand if I don't know that you don't understand them. So that's, you know, attend Zoom, ask questions, keep on top of your homeworks and your lab, right? Those three are the main deal. Success in exams helps, obviously, but technically speaking, you could actually get a D in every exam. Yeah, pretty much. You could get a D in every exam and still get a C or better in the course if you do all those other things. Right, so that's why I'm trying to get across. You don't have to be super, super smart to be successful. You just have to work really hard. And by working really, oh, good morning. By it's my exchange student. She's from Georgia. How cool is that? She's really tall as well. Where was I at? Yeah. I'm not usually this scatterbrained. Usually I have a little bit more structure to what I'm doing, but I'm just kind of winging it at the moment. Yeah, so keep on top of all that stuff, right? This course is a fire hose, right? And it's not going to start today. It's going to start next week. And once it starts, it doesn't get turned off until the end of the semester, right? And there will be homeworks, not every week, every couple of weeks, kind of. It's a little bit irregular because of subject spacing. Homeworks most weeks, right? Together, those homeworks make up 20% of your course grade, I think. Yeah, something like that. Can't remember exactly off the top of my head, like 15, 20%. Right, 20% of the lecture at least. You're going to have the same for lab. You're going to have a series of assignments, lab assignments you're going to have to do every lab. I'm going to talk briefly about lab at the end, so don't let me forget, because it's kind of weird and kooky this semester. But you keep on top of all of that. And that in total is, I think, about 40% of your course grade. And none of that, the homeworks, the lab assignments, the lab handouts, all that kind of jazz, none of that is hard to do, right? None of it's designed to kind of test you. It's all designed to support you, right? And allow you to build your grade, because the exams are hard, right? There's a lot of information that we're going to be covering, a lot of concepts in quite considerable depth as well, right? And so you're going to really, yeah, struggle with the exams, right? Because there's a lot of stuff you really need to understand to be able to get the kind of the big picture, right? They're not designed that way as like punishment. I'm not trying to kind of do you over or anything like that. It's simply because to be able to get a lot of what we're talking about, you really need to understand a lot of different concepts and know a lot of details, right? Because otherwise it kind of becomes a bit of a hand waving, fluffy situation. Okay, so be organized. I always show people my calendar. There we are. Yeah, a little tour of my computer. Right, so this is my week for this week. Let's move people over here. Right, I even have my lectures in as reminders. Partly that's because I have the Zoom link, so I don't have to go scan around after it. But everything that I do, got a meeting, I've probably got other meetings next week. I mean, I can't remember what I'm doing from one day to the other, right? Yeah, there you go. So that's what I'm looking like next week. All kinds crazy. So I do this for my own work, right? Everything, whatever it may include, particularly meetings, because I just don't remember stuff very well, right? You know, life is busy and I have a simpler life than many of you do in many ways, right? So put in every single one of those homeworks, put in every single assignment date, put in everything that you need, and put those reminders, like for exams, 2 weeks ahead of time. For assignments, depends on what they are. If it's a lab report, a week ahead of time. If it's just a homework, maybe a day or two, right? Because every semester I get students saying, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to take the homework. I forgot that it was on such and such date. That's fine. I'll open the due date, but then just stuff piles up, right? That whole fire hose deal. And so if you get behind on any one of these things and you're taking other courses too, you're not taking just genetics, I imagine, right? You can swiftly get buried, right? And as soon as that point happens, it's game over, right? It'll be really, really hard to recover, right? Because we just keep going, right? We've got 4 exams kind of for 4 roughly spaced segments of the course. We've got 8 homeworks. There's, can't remember exactly how many assignments in the lab. Actually, I could work it out. It's going to be 9, 11 assignments in lab, right? None of which are particularly, you know, difficult, but they all take time, right? So you got to stay on top of this. You've got to be working pretty much every single day on something to do with this course. And just attending Zoom is good, but it's not sufficient on its own. You need to be going over your notes. You need to look over. Go away, Zoom bar. Sorry, this thing kind of goes down and stops me seeing the. I have to be very precise with my mouse. It's probably don't need to know this, right? But here we go. All right, so go over the PowerPoints before we cover them in class, right? So that's half hour, maybe. Doesn't have to be in depth, right? Just maybe look through it, see if there's stuff that doesn't make any sense to you. Stuff you do know, great, gen up on it again. Stuff like that. Go through every one of these before your lecture, and the Zoom session will be much, much more informative, because you're not going to be seeing something for the first time. You're already going to have a little bit of the language, and you already have a sense at least of what you don't know, right? So those things you can focus more on. right? So these are all there for the whole course, all the way down to the bottom. You'll see that numbers aren't continuous. That's because those are other lectures which I've decided not to include, and I just got lazy and didn't rename the files, right? So don't worry about those. They just nothing we're going to cover, right? So you can see a lot of stuff going on, a lot of material. Obviously, you come to Zoom. After Zoom, you know, depending on what you've got going on in your day, maybe look over the notes that you made that evening, you know, maybe another half an hour, something like that. And then at the end of the week, maybe over the weekend, kind of start quizzing yourself, going over that material again. Like, what did he mean when he talked about, you know, attenuation, right? In terms of bacterial transcription. What does that mean? Like, how does that work, right? Start figuring out what you don't know, make a list of that stuff. And then even if we've moved on a couple of PowerPoints or subjects, ask questions in Zoom, right? So these Zoom sessions are not just lectures, because they're kind of that too. They're also, in a sense, partially office hours too, right? So what I really, really would like is if you also use this time to go, excuse me, Dr. Crook, there's something in PowerPoint 4, right? I just didn't really get like how that works. Can you just quickly go over that? And then we'll go back to that, we'll go through it, and trust me, everyone benefits, right? That's the beauty of asking questions. It doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everybody else. Because almost certainly other people are going to have the same sticking points or questions that they want to ask. Maybe they don't even know that they want to ask them yet, but anyway. Okay, so hopefully you get in a sense that this Zoom session is actually a really, really important one, because this is where you get to use me, right? Always, like, as I said earlier, you could learn genetics on your own off Khan Academy or whatever, just a bunch of information and concepts, right? What I kind of offer you is how to look at that from different angles, how to learn that in different ways, right? I've taught this for many years now, right? And I've come across most, not all, but most of the kind of sticking points that students have with material, right? So I've got different ways of like getting at stuff, but I only have in like my blurb, no, we don't take attendance, Sarah. It's kind of, hopefully the benefit is enough to make you want to attend. I only get in, like, when I'm going through those PowerPoints, I only give you one particular perspective or approach, right? So if that doesn't work, and there's a good chance it might not, because everybody thinks differently, let me know. Try a different one, right? That's what, in terms of your value for money, because you're paying for this, right? That's what I can offer you, right? I've taught this in lots of different ways to students of lots of different levels, and the whole gamut from, you know, kind of entry-level biology up to, you know, subgraduate level biology. I've actually taught graduate biology too, but many moons ago. And so I've got a pretty good sense of how to, you know, that's the sticking point, right? That's where you're kind of getting hung up on this particular concept. Let's turn it around and look at it from a different angle, right? So make the most of that, right? I mean, you're paying for my time essentially, right? You're paying my salary. That's what puts food on my daughter's table, so to speak, and mine, obviously. And so use me, right? That's kind of that's the benefit of having me teach you, right? It's not that I'm like some amazing spirit guide that knows everything there is to know about genetics, because that's almost certainly not true. Well, it is certainly not true. But I'm pretty good at teaching this, right? I have a pretty good feel for like where people have trouble with particular concepts. So make the most of that. Anyway, that's kind of the expectations and the general overview, right? Again, this is tough. Exams are hard. There's a ton of stuff to do and a lot of material to cover. But if you stay on top of it and you're really like on top of your stuff, you can be successful in this course without a shadow of a doubt, right? It is within the ability of all of you to pass this class with a C or better, right? So I can lead you to water, but it's really up to you whether or not you drink, right? So, but if you want to work, I will help you as much as you need without a shadow of a doubt, right? I'm kind of 100% behind you. It's my job to get you through this and onto the next part of your exciting biology career, right? That's really kind of the joy that I take. I enjoy students succeeding. I don't enjoy them not succeeding. Okay, so in support of that, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can learn genetics. So we have, as I've shown already, all of the PowerPoints. That's what we will be using in terms of our subject material. Here's a cool one. Actually, I'm really proud of this. You'll come across this later on. This is a gazonkas of a PowerPoint. I don't know, how many slides is it? 36. It'll take at least 2 lectures to get over this. Ta-da! Polydactyl cats. Actually, let's go even better than that. Hang on. If I can spell it right. I do go off on tangents occasionally. Most people are amused by that. Some people aren't. Sorry to those people that aren't. Good question, Sarah. It depends. If you're the sort of person that likes writing next to slides on PowerPoints, then by all means, print them out. It's really hard for me to recommend particular ways of studying because everybody's different. I study in a particular way and that works great for me, but might not for others. So if that's what works for you, then super awesome. Do that. One thing again, before we get onto the polydactyl kittens, I'm going to hold off pressing enter, is you really need to figure out what works for you, right? And figure out it fairly quickly. And one thing that I would really strongly recommend is don't just work with your notes, right? Don't just take notes and then look at them and read them and then maybe rewrite them. That helps, but it's not going to get you the whole way. You need to figure out what you don't know. And you only figure that out by quizzing yourself, quizzing other people, trying to do stuff, write down a genetic pathway, let's say, without the aid of your notes. So note taking is really important because you get that kind of mechanical deal. I actually prefer 100% doing this all on a blackboard. I've got one, or whiteboard, it's kind of behind me, tucked behind the couch, right? Because it gives you that muscle memory. So note taking is important, but it's not the whole picture. So whatever works, kind of, it's almost like you're learning how to learn, really. Anyway. Yeah, that's what I meant. Look at that. Isn't that totally awesome? I've spent so long looking at pictures of polydactyl cats. How cool is that? And there's actually one I think it's in the Wikipedia article. No, I have 3 cats. Unfortunately, you probably won't get to meet them because I also have 2 dogs and the cats don't like the dogs very much. And so being down here where the dogs are means the cats kind of stay upstairs. But anyway, super cute. All right, I don't know where I was going with that. I just want to show. God damn it, here come the dogs. They also really like playing next to me too while I'm teaching. So if I get a little bit distracted, I'll blame it on that. All right, getting distracted again. So Doop-a-doop-a-doo. All right, course material. Promise I'll be more organized next week. Get the chat back. Oh, Caitlin, we learned about polydactyl cats in the control of gene expression in eukaryotes. Thank you, love. Oh, you had a polydactyl dog? I've never heard of that. That's really interesting. All right. Hopefully my puppy, who's like 4.5 months old, is going to get distracted to go somewhere else. Because this is my older dog. This is Luna. And she's really cute. And extremely tolerant and patient, which is quite incredible. Anyway. Yeah, I've actually got funny pictures of her sitting in front of my laptop. So it looks like she's teaching, which is also super neat. So we have that. We have audio recordings, which are basically me chuntering on and going through those PowerPoints slide by slide. So for some people, that's really helpful. Other people never listen to them, and that's fine too. You know, whatever works. Some people told me they used to listen to these while driving to work or driving to class. So that's pretty neat. You know, there'll be some benefit from that. Here she is back in. I'll show you Pepper in a little bit. She's actually called Little Bit as well because she was really small when we got her. There's nothing here right now, but this is where the chats go and any pictures of my little whiteboard that I take. And there will be a bunch of those, pardon me, over the course of the semester, because some things are, I just have to write them out, like chi-squared, for example, or genetic cross and things like that. Right, so those will all go there. We also have in the exams and quizzes. So all that other stuff that I was talking about is in the course content folder. That's where all the material will be found. In the exams and quizzes, here you'll find the homeworks, right? And so these are really intended as study aids, right? They're not designed to kind of quiz you, really, right? They're not assessments. They're really to get you, you know, doing that studying that you should be doing for your exam, right? So they're kind of like enforced studying essentially, and they help, right? Students like them. They're also a really great way of just building your points up for your course, for your overall course grade, right? Because every week, you know, you can add a little bit. I think they're 25 points each, right? So, you know, bit by bit, you can build up your grade. And really, generally speaking, if you want to be confident of getting a C or better, you need to do all of these, right? It's kind of free money in a sense, right? Low hanging fruit. So for example, here's just a bunch of definitions, right? So you get the time to kind of go through those and go, yeah, oh, this kind of goes over in the PowerPoint here, and, you know, figure out stuff, right? Dog, will you stop doing that? Hey, she's just being gross on the couch next to me. Right, so they're really there to help you, right? That's the purpose of these homeworks, not to quiz you. You get, I think, 2 attempts from memory, right? So even if you don't get it right first time, you just try again, right? It's really not there to like, you know, punish you in any way, right? It's there to help you. So use them. They're really important. This is also where you'll find the exams. They're not actually here right now because I haven't put them in yet. But, and here's some kind of info that you'll be using for the exam. That'll be, I think that's the first one, maybe the second exam, I can't remember. But anyway, the exams will be here. You'll be taking them online. And, oh yeah, thanks, Alexa. Oh yeah, good point. Let me just finish this thought and then I'll answer those questions. We can continue some of this stuff on Monday too, right? Because I had a whole hour and 15 minutes for the other class to do this yesterday. The format of the exams is multiple choice or multiple answer. 40 questions, you'll have an hour and 15 minutes to take them, but you have the whole day from what will be 9 o'clock in the morning. Give me a second, Kate, and I'll answer your question in a moment, to midnight that day. And you'll find out when we have, where is it at? This is the one. Exams by looking at the schedule, right? So this is arguably the most important document that you'll use for this course, because it tells you what we're going to be studying, right? So this is useful for, you know, knowing what to look at in terms of prepping. It will tell you when your homeworks are due. You need to put that in your calendar. It will tell you when your first exam is, and so on, which is 15th of September. So in what, 1, 2, 3 and a bit weeks, right? Not going to be very long. So make sure you have a copy of this. If it changes, I'll update it and I'll let you know. If any of the material changes, I update it and let you know. Refer to this. I do constantly. If you ask me questions about when something is, I'll look at this and then I'll tell you, right? Because I can't remember all this stuff in my head. Okay, so I think that's that. Quick word about the textbook. Textbook is an optional deal in the syllabus. Here we are, which is where you find the schedule. You'll also find readings, so suggested readings for the textbook. There's 2 different editions because they're largely the same, but they're a little bit different in terms of page number. It is not an ebook, it's a physical book as far as I can tell. I don't think you can get it online from the publisher, but you can find a ton of the 6th edition ones going for cheap on eBay and Amazon, right? And so if you wish to use a textbook, and it's not obligatory, right? I don't test you on stuff that's in the textbooks. You get one, and the real reason for getting a textbook is the questions at the end of the chapters. So those are a very useful resource in figuring out what you don't know as a study aid. Obviously, the material in there is useful. They've got good pictures, but that sort of stuff you can find on the internet fairly readily. The real benefit of the textbook is those questions at the end of the chapters, right? So if you wish to get a textbook, you can find the current edition in the bookstore for crazy money. You can find the previous edition online in a bunch of places for, okay, love, for fairly reasonable money, 30, 40 bucks. I think you can even rent them from Amazon too. Okay, let me get back to some other questions. Nancy, about the homeworks, I don't actually know because I've never taken one. I think so. I'll have to try one. I'll try one and I'll get back to you. I'll make a note to do that because again, I've got a really terrible memory. And then I'll be able to tell you. Mariam, she's leaving. Oh, yeah, again, who is that? Sorry, this chat box is a little touchy. X-ray. Yes, so lab will be, just ever so quickly, lab will be in person. It starts next week. There are 4 different sessions, I guess. She is outside. 4 different sessions. Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, and Thursday. Can't remember what. Sorry a sec. Turn the top bit to the left. That's it. And just pull it shut behind you. Yes, so I'll be teaching 2 of those, 2 different adjuncts who I'm sort of coordinating will be teaching the other ones. You'll get exactly the same instruction, whichever section you're in. Now, the weird and funky business is that because of university requirements and COVID stuff, you'll be doing a week on, week off deal. And that week off is nothing. You don't have any extra requirements or any extra assignments. When you come into lab, so the odd sections, 01, 03, 05, and 07, will be coming into lab next week. So that'll be like week 2 of the semester or week 1 in the schedule. The even sections will be coming the following week, right? So that's how we're managing that kind of reduction in capacity in the lab, right? There's nothing, if say you're in an odd section, you come to lab next week, the following week, you have that time off. Yay, right? So the downside of doing that is that we have to squeeze one entire semester's worth of labs into half the number of labs. So it's going to be pretty crazy and hectic. We're going to have a lot of stuff to do in a short amount of time, right? And so Mr. Penny and I have taught it this way for at least a semester, if not 2. And we have a fair idea how to manage that. Miss Chan has not. This is her first time teaching it. So I'm going to be helping her as much as possible, but, you know, go easy on her because it's her first time teaching genetics. And she's doing it in the most unideal situation possible. So she's working really hard to get up to speed on everything. But there will be, you know, potentially some hiccups along the way. Gina, yeah, oh, sorry, Alexa Ray, that's right. Lab is every other week. And so we'll go over all of this. All 3 of us will go over this for the first lab. And I'll be sending an announcement round probably this afternoon, actually. I meant to do it yesterday, but this afternoon about how that will all work, right? So you're all up to speed. Sarah, give me a moment. Let me just answer Gina's question. There are no required materials for this course. Yeah, there aren't. Textbook is suggested. Actually, I quite recommend it. Unless you just really don't get on with textbooks. I personally don't. To be honest, I haven't actually read the genetics textbook because I tend to fall asleep really quickly, right? So if textbooks don't work for you, don't worry about it. If you can get something from it and it's not going to cost you too much, go for it. It will help. Every little bit helps, really, at the end of the day. Quick question from Sarah about labs. Again, we'll be going over all of this in lab as well. But yes, all of the assignments will be turned in online, but we'll go over exactly what that's going to look like in lab, because that's obviously the easiest place to do that kind of stuff. And there you go. 50 minutes has passed. Isn't that nuts? Always a bit of a whirlwind. Right. So I think I've covered everything that I needed to cover. I can't think of anything else. If you do have questions that you didn't have a chance to answer or stuff occurs to you like afterwards, just ask me on Monday, right? We'll have time for that. I try and build in time into the schedule for those kinds of questions and meanderings and things like that. So don't feel at all worried about using that time, right? Because it's there intentionally. Okay, and that's it for today. Isn't that crazy? I can go make myself a cup of coffee. Yay. I live off coffee. You know, I did my entire undergraduate degree without drinking coffee. I still can't understand how. I think I drank a lot of Red Bull. That's pretty much all I remember. Lots and lots of Red Bull and caffeine tablets. Anyway, all this stuff will be going up on YouTube. Ah, yeah, there you go. That's the thing that I forgot to tell you. So this Zoom recording will go on YouTube. I'll send you an announcement with the playlist. So you can use that if you wish to, or if you miss a lecture, it's still going to be there. And the chat will be posted to Blackboard, but I'll send you an email when that's done. That'll be after I've had my coffee. All right. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week.